What if I were to suggest that you play a key role in the awakening world? And that you are watching this because you have heard the call. We can start right now by opening our hearts and minds. Welcome to the awakening world.
Good evening, everybody. It is Wednesday night, just before October 31st, Halloween, and we are celebrating, as we do every year, Sacred Samhain, and really dropping into the true kind of history of what this time means. And I'm absolutely delighted to have as my co-host just an extraordinary goddess, priestess, human being, the lovely Eden Amadora. And she has brought aboard a very special friend, Elizabeth Seraphine. And we'll hear the whole story a little bit later. They were just together in Egypt. And as always, we have our beloved friend, Omashar, our house musical artist. That's not Omashar, that's Karen. But we're glad that you're with us as well, Karen. We've got Omashar with us as well. We're going to have a powerful evening of really dropping deep into learning all about how to use this time when the veils are thin. But as always, we're going to start the show with a musical offering from Omashar.
Yes, welcome everybody watching on Facebook and YouTube and our streaming partners, and happy birthday, Karen. I saw that. Lovely to have you, and I think that's why you got brought up there by Scott. It just happens to happen that way. So this is a very precious time of year, and I really feel it, and I'm so grateful that we're here tonight. And we're going to do something. Gathered together, holding hands, sisters and brothers, open hearts, open minds, raising our voices, singing these praises. Earth, my body, water, my blood, air, my breath, and fire, my spirit. Earth, my body, water, my blood, air, my breath, and fire, my spirit. Hey, and oh, yana, hey, yana, hey, yana, oh, yana, hey, hey, yana, oh, yana, hey, yana, hey, yana, oh, yana, hey. are willing to love each other, open hearts and open minds. We raise our voices and sing these praises. Earth, my body, water, my blood, air, my breath, and fire, my spirit. Earth, my body, water, my blood, air, my breath, and fire, my spirit. Hey, yana, ho, yana, hey, yana, hey, yana, ho, yana, hey, hey, yana, ho, yana, hey, yana, hey, yana, ho, yana, hey, We are here, gathered together, holding hands, sisters and brothers, open hearts and open minds, raising our voices and singing His praises. Earth, my body, water, my blood, air, my breath, and fire, my spirit. Earth, my body, water, my blood, air, my breath, and fire, my spirit. Earth, my body, water, my blood, air, my breath, and fire, my spirit. Earth, my body, water, my blood, air, my breath, and fire, my spirit. Hey, yana, ho, yana, hey, yana, hey, yana, ho, yana, hey, hey, yana, ho, yana, hey, yana, hey, yana, ho, yana,
Let's go to gallery view and everyone give a big twinkle to Omashar for a beautiful, perfect opening song. And all of our dancers, I love seeing more and more people dancing and moving for every show. That's pretty wonderful.
Isn't it?
It's great, isn't it? And it all started with Eleanor Joy and Jeffrey and Adora. I want to
And they were all rocking to Cornflower. That was just a moment in itself.
Absolutely. So Omashar will be back with 2 more songs tonight, which I'm very grateful for. And I'm going to go right into introducing Eden Amadora. I'm so grateful every time I get to have Eden on the show. I've gotten to know her as a friend, and she is always the same. She's always high vibe, loving. She's an extraordinary human being, and she's had an amazing life. And she also has really studied deeply the way of the priestess and is truly an urban version of the priestess and really understanding what it's like in our current 3D world and how to raise our vibration and raise our consciousness. And she always does everything with love. So thank you for agreeing to host really tonight's special Sacred Samhain evening.
Thank you so much, Scott. Wow, everybody. It's so good to be back with you all. I know I saw some of you earlier today. It's such a joy to come together in sacred ceremony and open-hearted spaces and places where we can really share together and be witnessed. And I'm excited to share more about Samhain in this time of year and to introduce you to a very special being who is here with me. So I'm going to bring in Elizabeth, and then we'll speak a little bit more about Samhain together. So welcome, Elizabeth. I'm going to introduce you. I first found Elizabeth years ago through social media, through the internet, from resonance. And I know we all, as sensitives, we feel resonance. We can feel when our bodies light up, when we're like, oh, wow, something is really moving me about this being's frequency, her message, her energy. And what I could tell from what I gleaned from listening to her, reading what she wrote, was this is a being who has studied very, very deeply the mystical arts, from martial arts, ceremonial arts, shamanic arts, to priestess practices and initiations. She has been highly initiated in many different mystery schools. And I am going to read a little bit of her official little short bio so that we can really honor that. Elizabeth Wilcox Seraphine is a mystic trailblazer, the creator of the Priestess Path Lineages of Light. She has initiated tens of thousands of women worldwide. Over half her life, she's trained with masters and grand masters, formally apprenticing lineages of sacred wisdom. She has 5 black belts. Not only is she a spiritual bad beep, she is a physical force to be reckoned with. So this is pretty awesome too. She has co-owned 5 martial art and Qigong schools and became the first female master instructor in her martial art organization. She has helped pioneer the return of the role of the Western priestess, like Scott said, the urban priestess, the modern day priestess, the priestess that is needed now in this world. She continues to train initiates in the sacred arts, and you can find her on elizabethseraphine.com for more. I know we have a lot of our partners streaming live here, so just to repeat, that is elizabethseraphine.com. And wonderful to be here with you. I think it's worthwhile to share the incredible synchronicity of our coming together just weeks ago, surprisingly as well, after Scott asked us to do a show on the Awakening World, this very show, and I was a delighted yes. I was in Egypt across the world, and on the first night we were there, Elizabeth walks in to the very tiny group that I was on tour with without knowing she was going to be a part of it. So what a magical divine destiny date. So good to have you here tonight, Elizabeth.
Thank you, Eden. And what beautiful magical synchronicity has brought us here today. And I really love when, we can experience and understand the language of the magical world that we really live in. And that's really what the priestess path is about. It's stepping into that magical world and knowing that we have that birthright to step into our higher self. And when we do, magic begins to occur. And I had actually had a lot of resistance about going to Egypt. And then I missed my flight. I missed my international flight. And it was just like chaos even getting there. But I finally walked in, and they had already been there for about a day. And I walked in and everyone was introducing themselves. And I just looked at Eden and I'm like, Eden, because she and I had connected years and years ago on the priestess frequency. And it was honestly at that very moment that I'm like, okay, I am supposed to be here. This is going to be a magical journey. And I just knew because, Eden and I have, we only spoke once, like 7 years ago. And then she and I show up on this journey. And so this is really what, the awakening world is all about. It's awakening into the magic of who we really are and what we can live, and supporting each other to do that. So I'm very happy to be here. And again, I've been here before with Scott, and thank you, Scott, and thank you, Eden, and everybody for being here and joining in magic, because that is what our lives can be and should be, and what we're going to be talking about tonight.
Yes. So there's a lot more magic Elizabeth and I are going to share in a little while about Egypt and some of the fun magical things we co-created and got up to. But first, Elizabeth, I thought it would be really powerful to speak a little bit more about Samhain. And I know that in different cultures, this time has been honored for millennia by different ancestral lineages. Samhain is only the Celtic or Irish name for this time that is meaning summer's end. It's a fire ritual. It's a fire ceremony. That's why I have this fiery background. And it is a time of honoring the veils are thin and those who've passed before. And it is a time of lighting these bonfires and lifting our spirits in celebration for the darker half of the year, the darker turning of the wheel. And I thought it would be sweet and kind of cute, like I do in my spiritual masterclass, just to show them the turn of the wheel. Because, we've lost a lot of these traditions. We've lost a lot of connection with earth and sun and the harvest season in our modern world. So we are sitting right here in the turn of the wheel. This is Samhain. You can see the pumpkin and the cauldron. We were at fall equinox on September 21st. And that's called Mabon in the Celtic turn of the wheel. And Samhain is the exact midpoint between fall equinox and winter solstice. And that's Yule here, the longest, darkest night of the year. So Samhain is traditionally a time when the ancestors would leave offerings. They would leave offerings to the spirits because they knew the veils are thin. They knew that to make it through the long, dark winter, they need to be well, they need to be healthy, they need to have good fortune. And life was tougher back then. This was a time that there were sacrifices of animals. They slaughtered the animals and they cured the meat. And they knew the fields would go fallow in the northern hemisphere. So it's honoring the greater cycles of life and death. And I'd love to bring Elizabeth back in again and just talk a little bit more about why we honor the ancestors and how important that is. I know this is a big piece of your work.
Yeah, I work a lot with the ancestors. In my traditions, I was taught to always honor the ancestors of the land that we're on whenever we show up there and before we do any kind of ceremony or ritual. So that's a piece that I always bring. So before any kind of ceremony, I give thanks to the ancestors that are still here, because some of the ancestors that lived on Earth love it so much that they're still here. They've chosen to, be in the spirit world on this earth land still. And one of my first profound spiritual experiences when I was 3 years old was connecting to a Native American spirit who had died on this land that my father had bought in Oregon. And he was one of the most beautiful spirits I ever connected to. And I felt like he was my family member. And when I connected to him, I knew he was there because he loved that land. He's still, you're still able to experience the elements of nature when you're a spirit if you stay here, and it was still very sacred to him. So I received that transmission really early on, and I always saw spirits when I was younger. It was one of the reasons I got on the priestess path, the mystic path, because I was already between those worlds. And so I always saw people who had already passed on, dead people. So for me, my part of my medicine is being in between the worlds. And one of my first spiritual teachers named me Twilight Autumn Woman. So twilight is the in-between time. Autumn is also that in-between time, but that time of death, change, and transformation. And so it's really where a lot of my medicine lies, in the in-between worlds, and where I work a lot. So not only are there many ancestors here, but there are ancestors of our lineages, not only our physical, biological lineages, but then our spiritual lineages. So for instance, some of the lineages that are really near and dear to me that I've studied are shamanic lineages, Taoist lineages, the martial art lineages. And then in my mystic experiences, the angelic lineages begin to come to me. So that's why I named my temple the Lineages of Light, because there were these multiple lineages that connect to the light of spirit. So a big part of the ability we have as eternal beings that came from the spirit world and are having our visitation here in the 3D world is that we're able to call upon the spirits and the ancestors for assistance. So later on, I might share about an ancestor altar and also the ancestors speaking, the way that I call the ancestors in when I do ceremony and when I go on any ancient lands. So for me, a big part of the medicine that I work with is the in-between worlds. And so working with the ancestors, the lineage ancestors, the ascended master ancestors, the angelic ancestors, it's a really, really big part of how we gain assistance here, because they do want to assist us. And also because of the free will law, we must ask and call them in. And so there's a lot of magic that happens. So I'll talk more about that in a little bit.
Beautiful. I just want to acknowledge that we have a really beautiful, robust group tonight. We have 40 people on for Wednesday night. It's the magic in the air this season. This is really cool. And I want to hear from you. One of my favorite parts about these calls is the interactive nature. There's a lot of people chatting in the chat. And what Elizabeth is talking about is so alive in me. And I'm so curious about how it's landing for you. Do you have connection with your ancestors? Have you had experiences with the other side of the veil? I know that often we fear the unknown, we fear the unseen, we fear ghosts, traditionally, because we're bombarded with all these Hollywood movies about how scary and dark and macabre all that is, and especially this time of year with all the spooky Halloween stuff. That being said, there's a lot of beautiful experiences with those who live right beyond the veil. So if you've had them, that would be really wonderful to hear about any of that and what your connection with your ancestors is.
And
Scott, you wanna chime in?
I'll give a story actually. I hadn't thought to share this story tonight, but when you brought it up, it's a story from my family. I'm of Greek origin. My father was Greek. My mother was all American. She was English, Scottish, Irish. But this happened long before I was born. My family, the Greek family, all came over, all started when Papu, who would have been my great grandfather, came over from Greece. And apparently Papu was very flamboyant, and he came to America, and his whole thing was to create a better life for his offspring. Well, Papu eventually passed away. And when my grandmother was pregnant with what would turn out to be my Aunt Helen, it was a very bad pregnancy, and there was a lot of trouble. And there was an evening where everybody was gathered at home waiting for word as to whether she would survive, whether the baby would survive. There's a knock on the door. My father at the time was 8 years old, and my dad opens the door, and there's Papu. Now, mind you, Papu had passed away a long time ago. And my dad looks, there's Papu, and he had his famous, dad always tells the story, he had his famous straw hat on. Everybody came, and Papu said, "I'm just here to tell you that Evie," that was the name of my dad's mother, "Evie's going to be fine, and she's going to have a baby girl." And we kind of looked at each other, and Papu was gone.
Wow.
And that's the story that kind of came all the way through. And of course, sure enough, my Aunt Helen was born and is still alive today. So
Amazing.
imagine telling that story, but I'm glad that I got a chance to share it.
So cool, Scott. Thank you. Thank you. We have a couple comments coming into the chat. Eleanor Joy says, we fear because we don't understand. It's just due to a lack of teaching. So it's so wonderful that there's people like Elizabeth that are working with the unseen realms, with the ancestors directly, and lifting the veils on this for us. And then Susan says, I've been in a journey learning about my ancestors. They're supporting me on how to integrate new energies. Wonderful, Susan. Yes. And people are just really enjoying that story, Scott. That's amazing. Isn't that fantastic, Elizabeth?
Amazing. Yeah, I got tears in my eyes.
Mhm.
Yeah. there's just so much love from our ancestors for us, and so much magic. You know, I just want to share it now while it's on my mind. You know, it's so simple just to get some pictures of your ancestors. This is my father, who I helped him pass. And he was a very conservative man and did not understand what I was doing, traveling the world, you know, studying with these weird people all the time. But I always knew that he would know me when he was in his last days, and he would know who I was. So he did come back to me after I helped him pass, and he was just this shining ball of light. And he was so grateful. And, you know, then I listened to something not long ago. A beautiful Maori man was talking about ancestor shrines, and he said, make sure you have your ancestor shrines and you give them, you know, you honor them, you light some incense for them, light a little candle, maybe give them, like now Samhain, you know, we would give them treats, different treats, chocolates, cream, butter, berries, wine. That's what's here. And to have conversations with them, you know, and this beautiful Maori man was reminding us that just see what happens. Just see what happens when you start talking to your ancestors and honoring them and remembering them. So this has been in all of our traditions. And there's just something that really is heart opening. And then magic. I just love magic. Magic is like my favorite thing ever. And when I, you know, met that beautiful Native American ancestor being who may have been one of my ancestors, because I remembered a death experience where I was a Native American. I died and immediately came back into a body, and I immediately was born right in Oregon. So I always thought that my dad was an Indian for whatever reason. It was just really wild. But so we can get pictures of our ancestors. These are my great grandparents. And right now is a really good time to set up those pictures. That's what this time is really all about. And light some candles, give some offerings, and talk to them. Thank them. If you're going through anything in your life, you can simply ask them for help, ask them for clarity, and just see what happens. So, Scott, that was such a powerful, amazing, magical reality that you lived and experienced. And it just reminds us that this is the world we live in. We live in a multidimensional world. The spirits are here with us, and they can come, and they do come. And so that's really what a lot of these practices are about, these shamanic practices, priestess practices, mystic practices. It's about working with the spirit world. Being spiritual is working with the spirit world. So just to bring that reminder in, yeah.
So I'm going to read a couple more of the comments in the chat. Tammy Moore says, I've just gathered and blessed my passed on loved ones. And Eleanor Joy says, magic and miracles. Yes, yes, with many exclamation points. I can feel your heart, Eleanor, as you offer that. Dia Therese says, this evening's show is a huge gift. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I desire more interactions with my Native American heritage. I am so eager to open what you're bringing to us. Namaste. And Susan is asking, do you have a simple practice to feel comfortable with the veil? So as the veils are very thin right now, I'm going to offer a little journey, a little simple, beautiful journey for us to feel the connection to the ancestors. I wanted to ask Elizabeth, did you share the two practices that you wanted to, beloved, or do you have anything else to say before the journey to meet the ancestors?
Well, if you want to do any kind of ceremonial invocation, I can do that.
Yay. Yes.
Do you want to do
Please.
like a ceremonial invocation before you do your journey?
Yes, thank you. That would be really powerful.
All right. So I always love to, you know, when we do these beautiful things, because I'm sure whatever Eden has in store is going to be very magical. I like to do them and connect to the sources of light, the angels, and the ancestors. So this is the way I do it. I light a little smudge. And then I like to smudge myself. So you can just take some breaths with us if you don't have smudge. Taking a deep breath in, inhale through the nose, exhaling out of the mouth, just coming into the here and now. Inhaling through the nose, sitting up nice and tall, and exhaling, letting go of anything that you need to let go of to be here now. And one more. Inhale through the nose and exhale. Just coming into your beautiful body, feeling your beautiful, strong spine, relaxing your face, relaxing your heart, being open to receive. I'm just going to offer this invocation. Great Spirit, God, divine light, infinite intelligence, we call to you. We ask that your light rain down upon us, in us, and through us, blessing every aspect of our life, body, mind, and affairs. Great Goddess, divine feminine, sacred feminine, you of many names, we call to you. We ask for your heart, your nurturance, your protection, and your guidance at this time. We call to the angels, the golden healing angels, our angelic family, our angelic protectors, our guardian angels. We ask you to be here with us. Bless each and every one here. Be by us as we walk through these times. And I love to call them the archangels, Ariel, Raphael, Michael, and Gabriel. We ask you to be here now, lending your power, protection, and guidance to this work. And we call to the ancestors of our spiritual lineages. Those lineages of light that we have been a part of in this life and in many others. We invite the lineage masters, those who have gone before, those who have been on this earth path, those who have shared wisdom, protected wisdom, and some of you gave the ultimate sacrifice to keep this wisdom here. We honor you, we thank you, and we invite you here now. And we call to the ancestors of our biological lineage, those that we love and those that love us. Those from our mother line, and we give thanks for all the wisdom and for these bodies. And to our father line, the ancestors that we love and that love us. We give thanks. We ask for your protection, your guidance. And we call to the ancestors of this land, the land that we are all on, whatever land that our beings are on at this time. I am in Sedona. I call to the ancestors of this land. I honor you. I respect you. I will walk gently upon this land. I will respect this land. And we ask for your permission and your blessings to do the sacred work here, this time when the veils are thin between this world and the spirit world. We ask for those sacred loved ones, our guides, our spirit guides, to come and sit with us, dance with us. We ask for your guidance for those things in life that we need guidance on, because you are in the other world now and you can see more than we can. This is the time we ask for the guidance as the light gets shorter in the northern hemisphere. It gets longer in the southern hemisphere. But this time, as most of us go into the days of darkness, we ask for your guidance. So, sacred ones, we give thanks that you are here sitting with us now in circle. All the sacred ancestors of all of our lineages of light. Amen. Aho.
Beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you so much, sister. That was so beautiful. I'm going to ring a Tibetan bowl to just let that ring out. So as Elizabeth has taken us so deep into this honoring energy, let's close our eyes together. And I like to invite that we bring a hand of light over our heart chakra right in the center. Breathing deep into the space behind the hand of light. You can give it a little light pressure, a little spiral. Leaning a little bit more into our back bodies, bringing the crown a little bit further back, giving our minds to our hearts, and perhaps bringing another hand of light to the lower belly, the dantian, just feeling this rootedness. Let's take 3 deep breaths, and as you exhale, softening anything that you're still holding on to so you can be fully present here. Deep, deep breath. A little bit of sound, relaxing into this present moment, this expansiveness. Again, a deep sigh. And a final sigh, releasing any tension, especially at the root, feeling how safe you are in this moment, how held we are right here. Deep sigh. Now I invite each and every one of us to feel, as we're held in this safe and loving space, as the veils are so thin, that this is a time to connect deeply with our own lineage, our own genetic lineage, this lineage that weaves through and awakens within us as we invoke it consciously to receive the gifts. As you lean back into your back body, feel into the left side of you, behind you. And on a soul level, whether they are still living or have passed, feel into your mother. On a soul level, this connection that is safe and protected and benevolent, no matter what happened or happens. On a personality level, this is a wonderful gifting on a soul level. Feeling her standing behind you and a little bit above on the left. And then presencing to your right, your father. And in that same soulful space, that this time is a safe and sacred space for the higher octave of consciousness to come through in a benevolent, blessing way. And as your mother and father stand behind you, feel them having your back on a spirit level. Feel the gift of life that they brought you into. And then behind them, to both of their left sides, place their mothers, a little bit above and behind your grandmothers, and feel them in their highest octave of soul medicine, what they are bringing to this lineage. And then to your parents' right, their fathers, behind and slightly above. And once again, in this safe and sacred space, the grandfathers bring in the codes that are of the highest octave for you. Deep breath, and as you continue to view behind the grandparents and slightly above, seeing their mothers to the left, their fathers to the right, that larger set of great grandparents, and feeling them on a soul level. And then again behind the great grandparents, rippling back and spreading out and up like this descending beautiful fractal that as they go higher and higher, they spread out further and further into the thousands of ancestors. And as you hold yourself here, as the result of their choices, they're coming together, feeling on your in-breath this receptivity to their gifts, their codes, their keys, that which they have come to bring you from beyond the veil, and perhaps that which you already know they have brought you through the lineage. Really honoring and receiving on the in-breath, deep breath. And on the out-breath, breathing gratitude. Thank you. And feeling this wave a few times, just breathing in the gifts and breathing back the grace, the gratitude. Thank you. One more deep, deep, receptive in-breath. Exhaling great gratitude to be here now with all you carry, all the medicine, all the tools, all the gifts. And now allowing spirit to reveal a particular ancestor who is here tonight as the veils are thin. And this ancestor has a gift, a message, perhaps an image, a symbol, a feeling, something that they are offering you now, just breathing and receiving, allowing that exchange, that to arise in timelessness, breathing it in and breathing out gratitude. Thank you. And as you lean back and breathe deep, just allowing spirit, if there are any other benevolent ancestors from your lineage, carrying a message, carrying a gift for you on this night, allowing that to be revealed. Opening to receive, softening, and breathing back gratitude. Thank you. Taking all the time you need in timelessness to slowly complete this exchange with the ancestors, perhaps offering them etherically a bow, a mudra of namaste on the etheric, and then very gently, very slowly letting them dissolve back into light, knowing they are close and can be called upon again and again. Just as Elizabeth has spoken, when we ask, we shall receive. Coming back to your own precious heart, releasing the grandparents, the parents, back to your own center, giving your heart a little energy. Deep breath, and we very gently release our hands of light and open our eyes again. I bow to you and thank you for going on this journey with us, this adventure of magic. If there is anything you received that you wish to share in the chat, be it a message or a vision or an image or a symbol, trust the magic. Some things reveal later, even in the dream time. So, yeah, thank you for receiving.
First off, I really want to appreciate both of you. Elizabeth's powerful calling in the energy, and Eden, I, of course, love your meditations. And I just want to acknowledge how embodied both of you are. You know, like, let's really take note of that as we receive their offerings. We're looking at two women that have spent a long, long time studying in lineages, doing the work, really learning how to embody what they're sharing. And so I want to acknowledge that. It's an honor to have both of you on the Awakening World tonight.
Thank you, Scott.
Thank you.
And thank you, Eden. It is really beautiful to share space. And that was one of the really magical things that happened in Egypt. And we didn't plan it at all. We had no idea. But, yes, both Eden and I have really been on a lifelong journey of really loving and honoring these sacred ways and the embodiment of living a sacred life in communion and sharing that. And it was just so magical that Spirit put both of us on this trip. And she and I we just seamlessly went into priestessing, and she and I wove together the sacred activations inside of the inner sanctums of these temples, beginning with the hour-long time we had in the King's Chamber at 3 a.m. Alone. And that's when she and I discovered that we started to tone in there. I think you started it, Eden. And I'm like, oh, great, this is wonderful. Let's tone. And so then, she and I just wove together, and we really don't even know each other. But we know each other from being in that mantle of the priestess and all of our lineage ancestors that are with us and that we share time with in these sacred temples of Egypt. And I just think it's so, I know, Eden, you came from a totally different educational system and life, and I came from a totally different system, but we stood there really sharing this priestess time. And it was
Absolutely. So magical. And I look forward to sharing a lot more. One of my favorite things was sharing sacred sound with you, Elizabeth. It was just so powerful, so altering, so delightful, so portal opening. And it is my heart's joy to share sound activations. So when you said, well, that's just what happens through me when I get to sacred spaces, that's how I connect, I was like, high five, sister. This is going to be a really great trip. And boy, was it. We're going to share a lot more about Egypt after Omashar plays his song. I do want to honor a few of the shares from the journey before Omashar plays, if that's okay, if we have time. I'm going
Yeah,
to,
that's perfect. Perfect.
yes. Okay. So Carol just says, thank you, my ancestors. I am walking. Oh, it blipped down really fast. Let me see where Carol's share went again. Yeah, I am walking with you in front, behind, beside. Aho. And Patricia says, from my mom, I've received her forgiveness for not being available more for her when I was facing my own challenges. Beautiful, beautiful. Wow. Susan says, I find close associations with certain ancestors who are holding me while I learn things. Right. They may have gifts in certain areas that you're called to. Beatrice says, I received a rather lengthy visit with a beautiful Indian woman moving and loving me. How magical that in timelessness, like a dream, you can have this powerful exchange in a meditation. Wonderful. Thank you, Dia. Eleanor Joy says, my aunt, my dad's oldest sister, who lived a few thousand miles away, for one of my birthdays, she sent a gorgeous small hat she'd made. I never wore it, a pillbox type hat. I remember the beauty of it many years later, and this hat was brought back into my consciousness for the first time in years. The message of the symbol, a crowning glory for me, whatever that means. It's just great to know she's in my field. How special! How wonderful. The symbolic universe speaks to us in the dream time and meditations. It is so powerful. Susan said, my thousands of ancestors gave me a golden glowing sphere. Trust, love, and interdimensionality. Wow. And Ellie is saying the resonance between you two feels very much like you've known each other, Elizabeth and I, in past lifetimes. I'm getting that at least at one of those lives you were sisters. Beautiful that the universe brought you together again. Beautiful to witness. It touches my heart. Sylvia says, my great grandmother Emma Krause appreciates my spiritual activism and the origami star I folded in honor of our ancestry. How wonderful, how fun. Thank you all for sharing so much. I think it's time for another song.
You know, it is. We're going to go to a song in just one moment. We're getting people also commenting on Facebook. I'm trying to track all the Facebook comments, and it's hard because there's so many different Facebook pages that we go to. So I want to just remind people that you can come into the Zoom room, come join us, and it's easy to do that. Just go to globalpeacetribe.com, globalpeacetribe.com. That's where you'll learn all about the different shows that we do, and click register for the new season. And when you click register for the new season, which will happen one of these moments here, well, it does usually take us to the constant contact page.
It's the Samhain glitch.
It is the Samhain. It's every week. It's tripping. Well, the veils are thin and magic is tripping, but if you click enough times, I think you will get to our registration page, and you can come straight into the Zoom room and join us. And I'm loving all the comments that are coming into the Zoom room. We'll go to Omashar's song, and maybe when we come back, you and Elizabeth might want to answer Susan's question about explaining some of the different lineages. I think that would be a wonderful way to start after this beautiful middle song from Omashar.
Relations, I am one with you. In all that you teach me, I give thanks to you. With my heart I listen as I pray. I know you are with me, guiding my way. Four-legged winged ones, creatures great and small, in humble honor I will stand tall, walking straight the path of harmony. All my relations can walk with me. You who've passed over, reach back through the veil. We're thinking of you, though you've set sail. Heaven and earth are one reality. Know that we love you, we love that you're free. All my relations, I am one with you. In all that you teach me, I give thanks to you. With my heart I listen as I pray. I know you are with me, guiding my way. Four-legged winged ones, creatures great and small, in humble honor I will stand tall, walking straight the path of harmony. All my relations can walk with me. And you who've passed over, reach back through the veil. We're thinking of you, though you've set sail. Heaven and earth are one reality. Know that we love you, we love that you're free. Cause all passed over, reach back through the veil. We're thinking of you, though you've set sail. Heaven and earth are one reality, so know that we love you, we love that you are free.
Wow, what a perfect song. Let's give Omashar much more love. Did you write that for tonight?
No, it's not. It's I did Sweat Lodge for years, and at this time of year, we always sang this song, "All My Relations," and also, of course, the one that I sang to start with, that I wrote verses to, and then in the center I put "Earth My Body, Water My Blood," and these were Sweat Lodge songs, and so they're deeply in me, and they just said sing them today because now is the time, and so that's where they came from.
Oh, perfect timing.
Yeah.
Speaking of perfect timing, this is a good time for us to remind everybody that you can find all things Omashar at his website. It's his name, omashar.com. And if you scroll down, that's where you get all of his music. And we encourage you to go to Bandcamp. Please buy his albums, support this beautiful man. We love him very much, and he is essential to this show. I would not be doing this show if it were not for Omashar at this point.
Thank you. And Ellie, what backdrop did you want to see again? Ellie? The other one.
The one with all the natives. That.
You know what? This one, I believe, was actually created by Chief Phil Lane. And I believe it was because I pinched it from his website. And that's me, right?
Oh, hold on. Let me get a picture.
I'll get out of the way and you can screenshot it.
Oh, hold on.
There you go. That works. Beautiful.
All right, there we go. So I think it was from Chief Phil Lane, unless he pinched it from somewhere else. However, there's only one of us here, so there we are.
What's his name, Omashar?
Chief Phil Lane Jr.
How do you spell it?
We'll
Phil.
put it in the chat box. We'll put it in the chat box.
Excuse me. All right.
It's stunning. I love it. Thank you.
So I know that before Omashar's song, we had a question in the chat about the different lineages. And I'm going to bring Elizabeth back in too with me, because this question can go a couple ways. It's like Elizabeth mentioned that her name of her temple is, the lineages of light is contained within the name of her very temple. And there are probably countless lineages of light throughout time and space and, in the cosmos and the bigger cosmology. And there are priestess lineages that I believe you might be referring to, Susan, about different ways of walking the path of priestess. And a lot of the lineages echo through time. They are taught from master to initiate. And some lineages go so far as to ordain you as a priestess before you are then able to teach other priestesses that lineage. So maybe Elizabeth and I can just talk a moment about our priestess lineages in this lifetime. And as far as all the lineages, I honestly could not name all the priestess lineages in the world, because I know that they have been echoing throughout time, from temples of ancient Sumer to Egypt. And if you have that vast, larger pattern view of the epochs that have been here on Earth, Lemurian, Atlantean temples, and we're going forwards and backwards in time. There are temples in ancient Greece, and there are temples in Malta. There are temples all over the world that are goddess temples that probably had their unique teachings and lineages. And just as the goddess is she of many, many innumerable names and faces, I would bet that the priestess lineages are pretty high up there in number because of that reason. So Elizabeth, would you like to share a little bit more about your priestess path or the lineage that you were ordained in? And I'll talk a little bit about mine.
So my journey, it began like out of necessity, because I was seeing between the worlds, or the worlds were coming to me because I saw spirits all the time as a child, and I would hear them, and I had telekinetic activity happen around me. So my childhood was full of all of this. And then I asked it to go away, and I prayed to God to take it away from me. And I stopped the site for a while, but it bottled up the energy in me. And then I created an illness. And it was through that illness that I was forced essentially to find the first lineage that I connected to, which was the shamanic lineage, because I had to heal my soul. I had to bring my soul parts back that I had basically lost, if you will. And so the first lineage that I connected to was the shamanic lineage. And then inside of that shamanic lineage, as you mentioned, yes, there are different lineages, because basically any individual receives lineage information if it comes from a lineage that's been carried throughout time by other humans on Earth. That would be whatever lineage you get, and then there's this lineage. So anyway, my first lineage was shamanism, and that I had many experiences that in there that I dedicated my soul to these lineages early on, because they brought my soul back, and I had a miraculous healing. So I quit college and I vowed to go find these sacred lineages of wisdom. I knew that they were around on planet Earth, and I knew also that they were dying out. And I knew that I was of that ilk. I actually wanted to join a temple when I was about 14, but there were no temples and there were no priestesses. And that made me very, very sad. And so I basically went on a journey to go uncover the lineages that I was drawn to, or the spirit led me to. And then I put my own temple together. So no, there was no woman that walked the path that I walked. And so I apprenticed masters of sacred lineages, beginning with shamanic lineages, going into martial art and Taoist lineages. And I did that for most of my life. And then I began with the mystic experiences, death experiences, direct revelation experiences. And that's where I connected to the angelic lineages, and they gave me the angel songs and certain things like that. So then there came a time when literally the goddess visited me, and she asked me to help to anchor in the sacred feminine on Earth. And that's when I codified my temple. So there's no lineage that I was ordained in. I went and I apprenticed many lineages, and then had this very strong connective experience, and then was asked by the goddess herself. So my lineage is unique unto me. I would be like the one that started this one, because it pulls from many sacred lineages, which is why I call it the priestess path lineages of light, because they're all lineages that connect to the living light of the divine, the living light of the one, and the source of all miracles, the source of life, the source of everything. So that's how I created the priestess path lineages of light. It's my own lineage.
Beautiful, Elizabeth. Susan says, "This is a sublime story, and I feel gratitude for your journey. And it is through suffering often that we open to such immense grace on the other side." So I really feel that in your story of overcoming dis-ease when your soul was sickened. It's almost like that Native American story where the chief or the medicine man asks the man who is unwell, "When did you stop singing? When did you stop dancing? When did you stop honoring beauty and magic?" And it feels like you had this blessing to meet a great teacher that helped remind you who you really are again. And that's so powerful. And then from there, it opened up into all of this. It was like a quest, like a vision quest. So I had an interesting journey as a young one who came in super sensitive, as so many of us here are. I can tell if you're here, you are one of the sensitives. And my mom had been a great seeker of philosophy and different religions. She was a student of comparative religion. So we had books about the feminine Taoist masters, and Baba Ram Dass Be Here Now was like gifted to me as a young teen, autobiography of a yogi, and I devoured her books. I was just so hungry and curious because I felt resonance. I felt remembrance. I felt this way that my soul was coming back in, not as like a completely like this is new and foreign to me, but oh, I remember. So I started doing yoga at 13, and my first lineage was yogic. And then from there, entered into a study of meditation and Kriya. I was initiated into transcendental meditation at 19, a very young meditator. But there was part of me that was being pulled also towards what does it mean to walk a more medicine path, a shamanic path, a path that honors the in-between space and the veils, beyond the veil. What is that? And I did find a teacher, a female teacher, that would weave sound and movement as her primary medicine. So I became very passionate about going into altered states through sound medicine and movement medicine, and working with different medicine people around the world through this female mentor. And one of the teachers, one of the experiences took me into a shamanic lineage in Arizona that some may know. It's called the Twisted Hair Tribe for a short time. So I also had that shamanic Native American based introduction into the mystery and the sound and movement medicine. And then I found the 13 Moon Mystery School, which delighted my heart and healed so many core wounds around the feminine, around competition, around comparison, the sisterhood wound. Growing up being a very sensitive, very kind of nerdy little kid, and then blossoming kind of into my embodiment at 15, and then having a certain impact on other women because of the way I look, there was a very strong sense of, am I safe? Can I be my free and sensitive and, true magical self? Or will I be castigated from the tribe? Because probably, little girls can be very mean. So to find the mystery school that was the embrace of the feminine 16 years ago healed so much of that in my heart. And through the mentoring of Ariel Spilsbury, who I really deeply want to honor as an elder and a crone, she is a living embodiment of unconditional love. She is a person that has dared to speak truth with such fierce love to me that the gift to my soul growth has been immense. And Ariel's been on the show with Scott and I. We had a mythic show with her on that was really fun. So my lineage is a triple pronged or a braid between the yogic, the shamanic, and the divine feminine mysteries. So when I work with people, I bring this kind of alchemy between these three paths very often. And that's a little bit more about my lineage and Elizabeth's lineage. And I think that using your heart knowing and feeling for resonance when you're seeking a teacher, when you're seeking a path or a lineage, really ultimately it is about your sovereignty and your trusting that deep, quiet inner voice of your own heart knowing. Because really in the end, it's like every time I have worked with a teacher that wasn't really meant to be my teacher, I've been turned off by anyone who says this is the only way or my way is the best in the world, because we're all playing here together and feeling what's true for us. And I like to say, G, you are you. To be the inner teacher ultimately, that we can awaken the inner teacher together. So Scott, this might be a fun time to go into some of the bridge between the Day of the Dead, Samhain energy, and mystical Egypt, because there's so much mystery around the Egyptians that, the Egyptian places, the tombs and the temples that Elizabeth and I visited, and how they walk with such a deep connection to the other side of the veil. I know that, Elizabeth, you invoked the ancestors at each holy site, whether it was the innermost sanctum, the holiest of holies of the king's chamber, or the Isis temple of Philae. I remember there were 3 experiences in particular for me where we used sacred sound after your ancestral invocation, where my body started to shake, where the energy of the place was so palpable and still so alive. That beyond the veil energy was so alive. You want to share more about your experience too?
Well, the first temple we went to was the temple of, and the Egyptians say it different. They say Phila, I believe. We call it Philae, but they call it Phila, the temple of Isis. And the moment we stepped foot there, even though that temple has been moved, I started crying because, I've been to Greece and I've been to Rome, but I did not feel the spirit of the temple as I did when I was in Egypt. And so for me, it was a real homecoming. And I know that the temples they're meant to be used. The reason that there are temples and that there are temples to the goddess and that there were priestesses in those temples were to use those temples for initiation, for remembrance, for guidance, for honoring. And so the first thing I did when we got there was to connect to all the ancestors that have, loved those temples and been there before. And then also the great spirit ancestors like Hathor or Isis, right? That were those temples were dedicated to. So because we live in a free will universe. And so one of the women asked about, how can we feel more comfortable about, about working with the veil or working beyond the veil or the thinning of the veil. And the way I always say it, it's like, well, it's like anywhere. It's like walking down a street in New York City, the spirit world. It's just, there's a lot of beings there. Just like there's a lot of beings on a street in New York City. And, I have an intention of working with, we call to specific beings like compassionate healing spirits, or I work specifically with angels, archangels, and the divine light. So I work mostly with light beings and angels. So we have, because you are a powerful being that can intend and you have the birthright of discernment, you just use that. And so none of us were taught how to be who we really are, which are these eternal spirit beings. But when we discover the laws of the universe, and we know how powerful we are, that we have the right to intend, we have the right to sacred space, we choose those things. And by that choosing, and by knowing some of the tools of protection, right? The tools of basically creating a sacred circle. I teach banishing, I teach invocations. When we know those tools, we feel more empowered and we feel safer about dealing with the spirit world. So it is an education, like any education. But anyway, so because of free will, we do need to request. And when we request with a sincere heart, the spirits show up, the specific ones that we've called on. And so Eden's a sensitive. And so it's beautiful that you felt that. In the King's Chamber, which was the first one that we were at, we were toning. Each person would lie in the red granite. They call it a sarcophagus, but I don't think it is. Anyway, a person would lay in there, and then all of us, we just ohmed. Very simple. Om. And we did it 3 times for each person. But every time we did that, I heard this man's voice, a very like empowered man, like in the back of the room. And I heard this very beautiful, feminine, almost angelic voice at the same time. And I'm like, okay, it's not Eden, and I'm like, everyone else is just like normal, normal people. They're not doing this every single time. And I realized what I felt like it was like that man was like a protector of that space, and he's there like in that pyramid, you know? And so the ancestors were there with us the whole time. It was so beautiful and magical to feel them.
What did you feel in your time? I had such a timeless experience laying in that granite. We'll call it an ascension chamber. It was just so different in consciousness than any other place where a circle of people could have ohmed around me. I can share briefly, and then I'd love to hear what you felt too. I experienced dropping into a theta state meditation instantly, something that would take a while of dedicated practice to experience that amount of stillness of mind, of no mind, and vastness. And a large portion of my consciousness felt like it was out of the body in a very vast kind of cosmos. And there was a thin line or a thread keeping me in to say, remember, you have to get up after the third ohm, so don't go too far. And then it was very hard for me to get back in the body to sit up. It was actually like an effort to engage my muscles after that third ohm. It was really, really powerful. And this is just in the very beginning of our time there. Do you have an experience you could share from your experience in that moment of sound in the granite?
Yes. So we didn't have much time. We had 3 ohms, each of us. And so, what can you do in 3 ohms? But I had a similar experience to yours, and you elucidated it very well with words. And immediately I was just like, oh, in this like vastness of space. But I felt like, to me, I felt like, okay, this is an interdimensional portal, and there are interdimensional beings that are available to connect right now at this time. And I felt that had I more time like hours, like give me a whole night there where I could be in that space and I could do my communications, with those that are there. I felt like it was meant for initiation. It was meant for, I mean, I think it's technology, but there is a very, very strong interdimensional nature to Egypt. And as you said, their whole life was thinking about the afterlife. They were all working on it. They were all preparing for it. And I love the story about the feather of Mot, because the goddess Mot, they say at the time of our death, she weighs our heart on her scale. And on one end of her scale is her feather, the feather of Mot, very light. And on the other end of the scale is our heart. And our heart, if our heart is as light as the feather of Mot, we're allowed to continue on into those heavenly realms of the afterlife. But if our heart is too heavy, then, I'm not sure I'm exactly the Egyptian, teachings on that one. But another thing that you experience when you're in Egypt is the lightness of heart that everybody has. And that was something that really touched me, was that truly the Egyptian people carry this beautiful, light, joyous heart with them. And I feel that I feel that the spirit of Egypt and the teachings of Egypt and that interdimensionality and remembering that we have access to the spirit world and we have access to ascended masters. So I felt that that was an ascended master portal almost,
Beautiful.
that to connect with them.
Yeah, that reminds me of the different levels of initiation and who's really allowed to access the technology or to go in the innermost, holiest of holies. It was often only the high priest or priestess and the pharaoh himself. So it does feel like the highest level of initiation to use, much like Hatshepsut's throne of Horus in the innermost sanctum of Edfu, the Horus temple we saw in Edfu. When you looked, I knew you were fascinated by the machine cut look of that red pink granite once again in there. and just how these incredible beings who had the technology, who knew how to work with the stones and the crystals in the stones and the resonance. Do you want to share anything from Egypt visually? Because I do have one video that would bring our Awakening World audience right to the Temple of Philae to show what you spoke of. So I thought I could show that first because you already spoke of it, and then Scott, am I enabled to share my screen?
You are.
Okay, then I'm gonna need to quickly get that up, and then I'll share my screen. I believe I have it. Yes. Okay, so I'm gonna set up the screen share for you all to see what Elizabeth was talking about. And this is pre-dawn. Do you see my screen? Do you see this?
We do.
Isn't this beautiful? I'm going to play the video, but first, before I play the video, even as a still, look at the hieroglyphs and look at the above that doorway that I'm gesturing towards. That is the winged solar disk of Horus. And it's a very famous Egyptian symbol that symbolizes their most beloved falcon god in the form he takes against the quote, quote, evil uncle Set. And I think depending on the level of initiation, the symbolic universe of Egypt starts to open up more and more to you around who these characters are and what they really mean and the teaching stories behind them. This happens to be a symbol that when I was 28 years old, just entering into my Saturn return, I actually tattooed on my sacrum without having a strong connection to Egypt or knowing anything about being a priestess. I activated my own Kundalini and had a full-on Kundalini crisis after tattooing this symbol. So I thought, well, that's something to really explore. And this symbol opens up in a dimensional way when you flip it. The two little serpent gods, I believe, represent much like the Indian Vedic or yogic rather, Pingala and Ida channels. And the sun, when you open it, becomes a channel of light, the Sushumna, up the whole spine. The wings, the Isis wings, they flower and unfold at the third eye, seeing beyond the veil. And the serpent becomes the swan of initiation, of awakening. So Horus represents light and enlightenment, the light within us, the light that we bring. And the evil battle that these two serpent allies help him with is the battle against darkness or sleep or density. It's awakening. So I thought I would share that from my personal initiation around that symbol. You can see our beautiful little Hathor head to the right of the screen on the pillar there. And I'm going to play the video. Remember, it's pre-dawn. I'm just waking up. It's Oh yeah, there's lots of temple cats. Elizabeth would feed them her beef jerky sticks.
No, the ones I brought, I didn't eat one of them. I fed all the cats and dogs.
Temple of Hathor in front of the temple of Isis. Just one moment. Okay. The guards often rush you through the places too. We're here in the temple of Hathor, right outside the temple of Isis on the Nile. They moved this entire complex from another site when they dammed the Nile and the waters rose. They rebuilt it stone by stone. These are the original hieroglyphs. These are the original pillars. Everything was moved. You can see how beautiful the lotus shape on the top of the pillars are. This is Isis, Osiris. You can see the vulture crown that Isis often wears. The ring and the rod is a symbol that repeats so often in ancient hieroglyphs and images, even of Sumerian goddess Inanna holds the rings and the rods too. it's a mystery as to what it really means, if it is symbolizing the Alpha and the Omega, the masculine and the feminine. I'm just going to pause it here. We don't have to listen to the whole video just to feel the beauty of this. Now imagine that it's coated in a colorful plaster. Everything is actually vibrant. And in fact, in some temples that Elizabeth and I went to, the eye of Horus would be missing because when it was originally painted in these beautiful deep colors, they would embed gemstones even into the walls, into the eye of the god or the goddess that was there, especially Horus. So this, even though it is, faded and broken, and you can see plain cement holding it together, and they moved it brick by brick, it was still so, so gorgeous. So that's just one of the temples, and we went to so many temples, so many tombs. Elizabeth, is there anything you would like to share with the audience?
See if I can share my screen, and if I can share my screen, I will share a little bit. Okay, so let's see. Let me see if I can do this. Where am I?
It's fun that Jeffrey spoke about the Alpha and the Omega being the male, female, and I had just spoke of the ring and the rod on the hieroglyph as that as well. There's a lot of symbols like this.
Yeah, the ring and the rod. Is this me here? Trying to figure out where I'm at. Okay, hopefully.
It's working. Yes.
Yeah, I believe I'm sharing in my Facebook group. So this is my Priestess Path Facebook group, the Priestess Path Lineages of Light. And so I put some pictures here. These are just, this is the Temple of Hathor, the Hathors, the goddess Hathor, one of my favorite ones, where we also have the Dendera light bulbs, and you see all the faces of Hathor here. There I am inside of the inner sanctum. We got tours of all the inner sanctums, which was great. Here's some of our beloved friends who are on the tour with us. I mean, this is a really interesting looking, it looks like an ear, it looks like a womb, it looks like a uterus, it looks like a part of the inner brain, and it's a person. So I just did a little quick slideshow. This is Isis making love with Osiris, even when he's dead, or Ra and everything. I mean, it is amazing. You could spend a lifetime here. This is Dendera. Here's the Great Pyramid. Just a little slideshow. Here's Horus. I am fascinated by the megalithic granite, diorite blocks of stone that they moved from sometimes almost 1,000 kilometers away. I'm fascinated by these giant blocks of stone because they speak back to a time when there was a highly advanced race on planet Earth. I believe we inherited these structures from them. This is the Osirion, one of my favorite structures. It's a megalithic structure, far older than all the other temples that were built. This one has the flower of life embossed on it. It's very hard to tell, but there are mysteries here that tell us about the beauty of existence. These kinds of machine cut blocks, and I was finding machine marks everywhere. Here's Sekhmet. We spent time in the inner sanctum.
Oh yeah. Whew. Another powerful spot.
Very powerful. She is still
shaking.
on her power spot. Yeah.
Yeah.
They have not moved her, and she has been there this was a 4,000-year-old temple, they told us.
Wow.
So yes,
she's like 8 feet tall, and we went in really early, pre-dawn, and honored her. I wish that we had been told how alive she still is, how thick the energy is in that temple to prepare before entering, because it was very, very powerful.
Very powerful Sekhmet. And she was the, embodiment of justice. She was a protectress, being the lioness who protects so fiercely. She was the protectress of the divine, really. Here I am at the base of the Sphinx, pre-dawn. Amazing. The Sphinx is Really amazing. Oh, there I am on a horse.
That was epic. Elizabeth didn't really ride too.
I
She
ran
took
off.
off. Yeah.
I just took off. I loved it. A man showed up with a horse and I was like, oh, I'm in heaven. And he let me ride it. And I just like, he said, go ahead, go ahead. And I just took off on that horse, and it was a well-behaved horse. These are the Dendera light bulbs that you may have heard about. And I loved it, Eden. You were playing jazz, like, with what it might be. And it is amazing. What is it? What is it? But it looks a lot like a light bulb. So we were there.
Oh,
Here's,
this was so gorgeous at Dendera. The color still, it looks like lapis.
look at that.
Yeah, the goddess Nut, the night goddess.
And it's almost like, it looks like the sun is shining from her womb,
Yeah, I heard our guide Muhammad say it's the moon giving birth to the Hathor head, then in the lower part of that ceiling from her womb.
Or another way, because everyone's interpreted these things. It's not like, or it's she eats the sun because she's Nut.
Yeah.
She eats it maybe from her mouth and she births it out her yoni. Like,
Ooh.
it's the daytime. Okay. That's my story. So there's some pictures there of that. And here we are. Hello. I did some little snippets.
Oh, that morning was epic what we saw when we came out.
Well, let's see if I can play it. I've never done this before. Can I actually play it with sound?
Yep, it's working.
But make sure you optimize your sound, Elizabeth.
Here she is.
When you do share screen, make sure that you click optimize sound.
Oh, that's complicated. I don't know how to do that.
I can hear her, Scott. Just let it play for a sec, see if we can hear.
She ruled Egypt for about 22 years. And it was a very prosperous time, but she did dress a little bit like a man.
Andrea took
So we are at her temple. It is dawn. There are all these beautiful balloons in the sky.
Remember that?
So good.
Yeah, dawn at the. So there's the sun coming up.
No, I can make it smell.
You can hear Eden's voice.
Sun is rising.
Anyway, there's some little snippets on my social media stuff there about the various temples.
The obelisks.
Yeah, obelisks that are made out of like red granite from hundreds of miles away. Anyway, there we go. So there's a little bit there.
Fantastic. Thank you.
There's a question that's come in from one of our Facebook listeners, viewers, asking what your intuition or insights are about the real history of the Great Pyramid or some of those things. There's obviously what we're told, but what do the two of you intuit?
I'd like to start to respond to that. I had a moment when we went to Saqqara. I do have another video of that, but I think I'll just say there's a fairly large pyramid, 60-meter high pyramid called the Step Pyramid of Djoser. And it's 4,500 years old. And from the first look at it, I'm sure you'd agree, Elizabeth, it's obviously man-made. You can tell all the bricks are fairly small, relatively speaking, once you've seen the Great Pyramid, and they're all parallel. They're all stacked in a step pyramid configuration. I'm sure it took so long to do that, yet it was done in a fairly timely way with a lot of manpower, and we know the architect and engineer. 4,500 years ago, Imhotep was a famous engineer architect of the pharaoh Djoser, and he was so loved for this feat that at the time was the most amazing thing. He was kind of turned into a god later in Greece because the same architect engineer was a philosopher and a physician. He became Asclepius in ancient Greece. So if a human was revered that much for creating this step pyramid and knowing what he did 4,500 years ago around medicine and philosophy, when you travel to the Great Pyramid of Giza, and especially when you get next to the size of those massive stones, and especially from the inside, when you see these 30 to 100-ton granite stones that are suspended 30 meters high at an angle with no mortar, no notches, something in your mind is stretched beyond capacity, and you cannot imagine how men, even with their higher math and knowledge of the stars through what they could see on the ground, could create this amazing megalithic structure that honors Orion's belt perfectly, that its geometry echoes or speaks to the circumference of the earth and the distance from moon to earth, all in precision. And yet they say it's not as old as the step pyramid of Djoser. But then who is the architect engineer? And where are the papyrus scrolls and the stone tablets that speak of how in the world they made this? We know now, and Elizabeth and I stood in between the paws of the Sphinx, that the academic community resisted for a very long time the fact that the Sphinx is pre-Diluvian, because they couldn't find their usual way of dating things. They couldn't find pottery shards around it. I know John Anthony West is famous for this as even not a esteemed academic archaeologist, as an individual who questioned the narrative and then wrote many books about it. So that now has been carbon dated more than 10,000 years older than the Great Pyramid, supposedly. Did dynastic pharaohs, use the Great Pyramid and the pyramids of Giza for tombs much, much later? The narrative for me feels really off. When you sit and watch the light show there, they bring you at night to watch this light show. It's like from 1960 something. Do you remember that, Elizabeth? It was kind of cheesy. There was this show that talks about how this pharaoh, that was his tomb and he made it. And we're like, how? How in the world? Yeah, so I would say
It's
no
not,
way.
yeah, for me, I'm sure that there was an ancient builder race that is not Homo sapiens sapien. We are, I believe that Earth is a place of many races, many cultures, and I believe that we're like a Garden of Eden and a kind of a galactic melting pot of lots of beautiful life forms. And you can see evidence on planet Earth all over the place, and very much in Egypt, of the ancient builder race. So the Osirion, the Great Pyramid, there's a temple by the Sphinx, which is made of megalithic blocks of stone, which most people pass by on their way to the Sphinx, and they don't even stop there. But there are blocks of stone as big as the room that I'm in, and the floor, and it's 4,000 years old at least. And then the floor is this gorgeous yellow, what is that? It's like the light goes through alabaster. It is an alabaster floor. It is gorgeous. And I took my shoes off and I just walked around that floor. I'm like, this is where I would be. This is where I'd be the whole time. And so there is a strong theory that we inherited, whoever we are, wherever we came from. Maybe we're an experiment, it's logical that we could be. I'm Rh negative with no biological ancestry to hominids. There's no biological connection to the rhesus monkey. And then about 90% of humanity has a biological connection to the rhesus monkey. Whatever Rh negative are, we don't have that. And I feel that the maybe it was the ancient builder race, or maybe it was another star people or something, seeded children, mixtures of things, mixtures of their genetics, mixtures of sometimes a hominid genetics, sometimes not. We're here. So we inherited these things. And so I feel the step pyramid of Djoser was an attempt to mimic the Great Pyramid, which we couldn't make today. There's no way. Not only would it be extremely difficult, impossible to bring those stones to one place from many miles away, but then to arrange them with such brilliant computerized mathematical precision, where we're walking inside of the pyramid in this thing that's like this, with these huge things leading to another thing. I mean, you just,
They
we
didn't want us to film, unfortunately. I did get a little video of that. I'm descending, kind of secretly filming, and we could show it for a moment. I think that that might be
have it.
okay. Let me go find that while you keep talking for a second.
Right. Yeah, so they were very protective of filming inside of the Great Pyramid. I can just say it's beyond a shadow of my doubt that that was not built by Homo sapiens sapien. It was, and a lot of you here probably already know that they're, you know, the elongated skull people who are, they are not Homo sapiens sapien. They are another being. The ones, the Paracas skulls, the ones that don't have, you know, the sagittal suture that we have, those are another race of beings. We see those people in Egypt, but I don't know if even they are the ones that built it. I have this feeling that there was this beautiful builder race. They came and they're the ones that put down this amazing structure, seeded us. I don't know if we're some spiritual or scientific experiment, but here we are. They gave us culture, they gave us agriculture, they gave us law, they gave us these beautiful teachings. And if you study the Anunnaki at all, you know, Inanna brought the MEs. They literally call them MEs, and they are like downloads of entire systems of information. So lineages, if you will. So the martial art lineages, the sacred sexual teachings and lineages, these are all the things that Inanna brought to her people. So it's quite fascinating. I truly believe that our ancestry are star people. We're mixtures of spirits. And then in this 3D world, there are many, many beings. And so I feel that in Egypt, you can see it.
Let's actually show them the a Serapeum of Saqqara. That megalithic structure. I found that. So I'm going to share this with you all. So Elizabeth is featured in this video too, and this is a very fascinating short video.
That can make this granite wood draw a little more precise hieroglyphics.
Yeah, she wasn't buying the hieroglyphs, came with the original machine cut. These are massive, massive stones.
And then that to me looks like script on graffiti. It's the only one that has that. There's 24 others. 24 in total. 23 others do not have that scribble.
You can see the precision of this giant 100-ton black granite stone. And Elizabeth was really questioning the narrative that these scratched on hieroglyphs came with the original stone. It was brought like almost 1,000 kilometers away, over 100 tons, and there's
24 of them.
Oh, 24? Okay. So
that's the only one that has those scratch marks in it, if you will. And they're not precise. They're not straight lines. They're clearly somebody doing it afterward, because the other ones don't have it. All the other ones, they're polished to a mirror finish. And people have gone there. They have gone to the Serapeum, and they have taken machinists, they have these tools that they measure they measure the precision of stuff with, and they've taken those tools, and these things are like they're beyond machine made. So yeah, I don't think we can do it today. We certainly can't haul. I mean, there are 100-ton blocks of stones. There are statues of Ramses that are 100 tons, where the granite comes from miles and miles away. We didn't have much time at Luxor at all, but the faces of Ramses are completely perfect. If you take a computer and you were to create a perfect face where both sides are mathematically perfect, that's what the faces of the statues of Ramses are. There's no way anybody could carve it by hand.
No human error.
Yeah.
I'm going to show one more really wild hieroglyph that we went to at the Temple of Seti, that we saw rather when we went to the Temple of Seti, the first. Can you see what I'm looking at? We have a hieroglyph there that is fascinating and mysterious because it looks to the left like a giant beetle or bee or something, maybe a fish swimming downward, but then look right to the right of that vertical fish-like thing. There's a helicopter shape. Do you see that?
Yes, yes.
Yes. And then there's, right over to the right of that, some kind of maybe submarine and jet plane. There are these.
Holy Moses, you're right.
Yes. So this still mystifies Egyptologists completely. Were there ways of peering forward in time? Were there beings visiting them back in that time that had high tech vehicles? What were these things? It's fascinating. That's also something I really wonder about. I have so many images. I'm hoping this is the Temple of um, Dendera again, just to show the beauty. That's our friend. I think you're seeing everything I'm seeing, but this is our friend.
Okay, walk.
Yeah, just look at the size of these pillars and the colors they're revealing. Unfortunately, many of the ceilings and the pillars are blackened with soot because 1,000 years after the height of this culture, when it was falling under the sands of time, and the sand was filling up to 10 meters high in some of these massive temples, the early Christians were hiding in Egyptian temples to escape persecution. And because of their new beliefs, they were not honoring the beauty and the gods of old. They were even not just blackening the ceiling with their cooking fires, they were scratching off the faces and the bodies of the beautiful gods and goddesses on the hieroglyphs. So I know that we're getting towards the end of our time together, and I just want to really honor if there's any more questions. I do want to say that I found it intriguing and a bit like my nervous system and my heart was like, wow, the Egyptians were so fascinated by the afterworld. The dynastic Egyptians, the pharaohs, were so set on preserving their identity and their wealth and their possessions on the other side of the veil, that they lived in preparation from the beginning of their reign in the biggest tombs and the biggest things, like the biggest doorways, the biggest temples. There was a lot of ego in the pharaohs. And Akhenaten is kind of, almost an exception to the rule in the sense that maybe he still was mummified and went through all the traditions, but he actually taught the people to revere life. And he wanted to take some of the power away from the priesthood that was really, they had a good racket going with all the gold and all the things they would ask from the people for each god, for each festival, for each ceremony. And Akhenaten said, there is one source of light and truth and power, and that is the light of consciousness that's symbolized by the sun. That's Aten. So it became more of this, in a way, monotheist, no, I can't even say the word, monotheistic, the one God. He wanted us to worship the oneness. And, whether they poisoned him for that, I know that his son who we know as Tutankhamun was Tutaknaten as well, that he was meant to carry this lineage forward, but the priesthood was too powerful because working on having people enrolled in this worship of many gods and in the same culture of preparing everything for a good afterlife and all that they'd have to give to the priests to prepare in that way. Akhenaten came in and said, honor the beauty of the Nile, honor the sun, honor the living creatures. And he was the first to really show hieroglyphs and images of him with his children in this loving way during his life, and not just about his passing in his tomb. And I believe he may have had one of those elongated heads, Elizabeth.
He did. He had an elongated skull, and his children had elongated skulls. And I believe it's Nefertiti was his wife. She had an elongated skull. So they were those people. And then interestingly enough, you know, the priesthood hated Akhenaten, and they destroyed a lot of his. We don't even know where his body is. Who knows what they did with that? So it wasn't popular to take the religious political power away from the pharaohs. So yes, you can feel that, and as time goes on, it feels like it descends, you know, more and more and more and more into ego, which is kind of how things are. And but there is a real beauty and power there. You know, Egypt really harmonizes with the time that we're in now. Samhain, Halloween, Day of the Dead, honoring the afterlife, remembering those who have gone into it, remembering our loved ones that have passed on, and that they're still able to hear us, and they're still interested in being a part of our lives, which is why we, you know, we create ancestor altars. And, you know, I love the Day of the Dead because to me, it still carries the spirit of this time more so than Halloween, because the Day of the Dead, what they're doing is they're honoring their ancestors. So I've got my dad, I brought my dad, you know, into my bathroom now, and I've got my dad in my bathroom, and I'm talking to him in the mornings, and asking him to help me with things. And I'm going to create my little more formal ancestor. I'm going to bring my ancestors all on like one of my main altars in my house, and give them some offerings. So typically anything, you know, white, either white wine or cream symbolizes the masculine, and red wine or fruit juice, feminine. Mother, father lineages. Everyone likes chocolate, even the ancestors, right? Fruit, butter, life, the water of life, and really anything you want. So this is one simple way that you can honor your ancestors. And just like Scott shared, I mean, what a powerful, magical visitation. So they want to help. They want to help us with the things that we're struggling with, because you are the crown of their existence. You know, they all had all of their children to have you. So, you know, you stand as this flower with all of your lineage behind you, all of your ancestral lineages and our spiritual lineages. So right now, those of us that are walking this earth path right now, we have so much support and love for us. So all we need to do is open up to it and tune into it, and honor them and ask for their assistance. So
Beautiful what you said, Elizabeth, that you are the crown glory. You are the pinnacle, that end point of all that work and survival and love and everything that it took for us to be here, to really feel that deep honoring. I want to honor that Elizabeth is ready to take you to Egypt with her. Not everybody, but the first time she's going back is this December, and she has room for a select few, maybe two, maybe three, for a very deep dive initiation there with her. And this is her page.
Yeah,
Elizabeth
and then
Seraphine.
March I'll be doing a larger group, but this December, like if there's anyone that feels called for like very kind of personal initiation, I'll be there in December. And this page is, my website is elizabethseraphine.com, and this is sacred-egypt-tours. And the one in March will most likely be a priestess pilgrimage. In December, it's just kind of like, if anyone's feeling like really, really called for, one or two people to do like in-person work, personal initiations there. Egypt is magical. If you go to that page and you are curious, you can book a discovery call with me, so you can do it from that page. Anyway, so
Beautiful.
yeah, I was deeply, deeply touched by Egypt and want to really continue to deepen my work there.
Oh, that's a gorgeous image. Wow. Fantastic.
And Elizabeth, are you also offering private sessions and mentorship at this time?
I do. That right now you're looking at my page, my private mentorship page. I do some private mentorships. Mostly lately, I'm focusing on deeper initiations, medicine woman initiations, year-long initiations. At the moment, I'm in a 3-month one. It's called the Deeply Nourished Woman, just really helping and supporting women to deeply nourish their spirit, their body. So, if you are interested in working with me, you can just reach out. It's kind of spirit led. And so I just get like the next piece, and I do see that part of the next piece is Egypt. And yes,
I have something fun that just whizzed into my awareness. There's a high possibility that Mohammed, our guide, is on this call. It may be the same Mohammed. Omashar, did Mohammed say something to you, or did you just see his name come in? And if Mohammed is here and if he's on video, I would love to say hello. We had a beautiful.
And I had a feeling that he might have been associated. So Mohammed Essa, brother, if you want to turn your video on.
Yeah, if it is the same Mohammed, it is he here? There are so many Mohammeds there. Both of our guides were named Mohammed, so it could just be a Mohammed. But if it is our Mohammed, we'd love to say hello and see you. And
Mohammed's, his camera's still off. Brother, you can speak if you like.
Wow.
Yes, okay. Hello, everyone. I'm Mohammed Isam from Egypt, but I'm not your guide.
okay.
You're not our guide. You could be our guide, though.
Thank you, Mohammed. We had maybe if you're still in Egypt, Elizabeth, we'll see you there soon. Hello. We had a wonderful guide named Mohammed that, someone asked earlier and said that some Egyptians do not like to be called, they don't like to be called Arabs. They are some very devout Muslims, and so beautiful to hear the minarets 3 times a day, and that evoked such deep feeling. I asked our one guide, Mohammed, how do you balance your religion, your Muslim tradition, with honoring the temples and honoring the old gods? And he said, we're still Egyptian and we very much honor the temples and the gods. And he would take us to touch certain hieroglyphs to feel the energy, and very much was in deep, deep honoring of it. Is there anything you would share? Do you live in Egypt, Mohammed, or?
Oh yes, I live in Egypt, and actually, I started to be interested more in the ancient Egypt history from few years, and as you said, it doesn't conflict to be interested in our history, and actually, I started to study more about the ancient Egyptian. And actually, I'm an engineer. I used to work for IBM, and now I'm to the spiritual world more, and I work as a holistic coach. And I started to be interested in the ancient Egyptian. And as an engineer, when I went to the temples, I was impressed by the details in the temples. And one of the main questions came to my mind: how did they did that
Yeah.
with such a precision of engineering. It's impossible to be done nowadays with the equipment that we have in engineering. And because the temples is very precise. If you, for sure you will go to Egypt, and many of you, and I encourage you to come to Egypt. It's your country.
Thank you,
Because
Mohammed.
because I see Egypt is part of the human history. It is not just a country, it belongs to everyone. So if you will go to the, I will share just a few just a small information, and then I will let you continue your Zoom call. Actually, when I went there, what impressed me is the alignment of the temple, how the temple is aligned, and how the pillars and the doors are on a straight line. When I measured that, because I had something like equipment, I measured that it's almost zero error. Zero error, the alignment. Oh, and that's really from the perspective of engineering, that's almost impossible to be done. It's really hard. And ask it why? Why you keep the building zero error? There is no pillar is just 1 millimeter inside or one outside. No, there are zero error. They are on the same line. It's a kind of high precision. And the answer that I got by my own research is they wanted to keep that place is on a perfect level because they are seeking a perfect divine connection. And that's it. And thank you for giving me
Thank
the
you
chance
so
to
much,
do that.
Mohammed. Thank you for that. His audio was a bit scratchy, so I'm just going to reiterate that zero error in the alignment of the doors of the temples, and in his own intuition and contemplation, he recognized that it's connected to the divine alignment. So that's very powerful, very beautiful.
I want to come in for one quick moment because people are asking how to reach Elizabeth. And so if you go to her website, elizabethseraphine.com, the homepage, just scroll right down there and you can put a name and email address. Will that get to you, Elizabeth, or is there a better way for people to reach you?
I just put my email in the chat, so you can just email us, and it's hello@elizabethseraphine.com is my email. And that way you'll get my assistant gets those, but anything that's of interested in this, we'll pursue it. So
I want to read that slowly because most people watching are watching on Facebook and can't access the Zoom room. So
okay. Yeah, so I'll spell my name. It's hello@elizabethseraphine.com. So it's ELIZABETHSERAPHINE, Seraphine, which I named myself after the Seraphim angels. After my, so a lot of you may know, some of you may know, I was married to David Wilcock for a while, and when we parted ways, I was just like, I need just my own name. I can't take, I have had 2 husbands, and so I'm not going to take another man's name. So I took my angelic name. Anyway, that's how that happened. And so, yeah, just reach out. I feel, just like Mohammed so generously said, Egypt has the heart of the people in Egypt is just the most precious I've ever felt. And there's such a welcoming energy, and it really restores it restores your heart, it restores your soul. And I think that that's what those temples are for. And so they're still working today, and it really is a magical land, and the people are so beautiful. So I just encourage anyone who feels called, it's definitely a pilgrimage to do, for sure.
And the times that Elizabeth are going are going to be a really good time of year, because even when we were there in late September, early October, we had days that were 105 degrees. And I think December, January, February through March are the best times to go. I know the eclipse is coming there in 2027. Unfortunately, it's at the height of summer. It can get up to 120 degrees.
Wow.
So even if you're an eclipse chaser, I don't know if that's the best time for your body to be in that environment. Going through the temples, you'd have to probably do it at night. And you want to be able to see, you really want to see the beauty. That's
Eden,
just my humble opinion.
uh, Eden, I'm really impressed with your retention of the information that was passed along to us, because as you're speaking, like you're pulling very specific information from our trip. And it's just really impressive. I'm kind of like a big energy, thing. I can go watch a movie and then I can't tell you what it's about. But I could tell you like what I felt about it. So it's just really beautiful to hear you speaking about this. And I'm like, wow, I'm so impressed.
It's my nerdy side. Most people don't know this about me. I do synthesize information really quickly. In astrology, I have a grand trine in air. So my I'm like I love learning. I love the details when I'm really interested in something. It's really fun for me. So
Oh,
thank you
and by the way, yes, everybody asked if Eden and I were sisters. We just said yes.
Yes, in Egypt we got asked a lot. We're the Golden Angel Priestess Sisters. Yes.
Like, yes. Wasn't it so funny? Oh, they tried to feed us this kichari, which was not my favorite at all.
High carbs.
Lots of carbs. And, I was like barely eating it. And one of the guys was like, oh, you're an angel. You're an angel. And eat, eat, eat. And I said, oh, we don't eat that much in heaven.
Uh,
Aw.
Anyway, so
I
just
want to just thank both of you so much. You gave so much to us. It was like a double show, about our
Sawa in Egypt hybrid show. Scott, do you think this is a good time for me to share what's coming up and the gift I wanted to offer the audience or before we say
quite
goodbye?
that's exactly where we're going.
Oh, yay.
So go ahead, and I want to share both things. So do you want to start with your priestess training or
Yes, we've opened the gates to the next year-long priestess training, and this is called the Mysterium. It is the online version of the deep dive with the divine feminine archetypes that takes you through 13 moons, which is one real year. We have 13 full moons. You can join the wait list, and what that means is that I'll reach out to you for giving you more information, the application, and the opportunity to interview directly with me. There's more information on the page about it, and they can scroll down later if they go to edenamadora.com. On the top nav bar, you just click on Priestess Training. And that is coming up next year. We start at Imbolc, which is another one of these beautiful turn of the wheel Celtic names. It's early spring in the beginning of February, and we go a full cycle into the mystery. And this next year's cycle is really focused on claiming your own magic, awakening your voice, connecting to the goddess that lives within you so that you can share your gifts here in this world that so needs us, needs the guides to step forward with a big toolkit. So we have a lot to share with you around priestess tools, embodiment practices, and ways of navigating in a rapidly changing world where, as we know, it seems to be sometimes, is it evolving or devolving? There's a lot of apparent division and tension in the world. So those of us who are committed to a path of heart and walking in love, as love, for love, this is for you. And then, Scott, the next thing is a gift. So if you want to share the page again, on my nav bar, you can click on courses, and those are the self-study courses. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to offer you a coupon code for 50% off all of my evergreen programs, my self-study courses. Some of them are already very, very affordable, and they are all dealing with the divine feminine in you, how you can step into the temple of your body as the living temple, how you become more magnetic. That one possibly is more for the women. I would say that the sun heart, honoring sacred polarities, is for both men and women. And for men who love the goddess, they can also tune into any of these courses. The coupon code, if you want to type it in the chat for me, Scott, is simply Amadora, like my magical name. That means she who loves, or the beloved, capital Amadora. And that will work in the checkout of any of the self-study courses. So you can have fun with that as a gift from me for the holidays to support your journey through the darker turn of the wheel, that these tools may really serve you. It's only capital A. Then it's a lowercase Madora. As a coupon code, it has to work with the right capitals and small letters. Thank you so much, Scott. So that's my gift for the community. And it's such a pleasure, such a joy and honor to be with all of you again. And so fun to receive all your questions and just the great conversation with Elizabeth. I loved our night.
Beautiful. Yeah, I have a gift. If you go to my website, on the homepage, if you sign your name in, you'll get my video, how to navigate like a priestess. And it's good for men and women, but how to navigate like a priestess right now, these times we're in, these waters that we're in. So yeah, if you put your name and email in there, you'll get that video, and it's probably an hour-long video or something on that. Yeah, nice.
Thank you.
We'll see what happens. We'll see if it works.
Well, I hit submit. It took me somewhere.
You might get an email. You're probably going to get an email from it.
It said, thank you, we've gotten your request. So I'll take a quick look and see if it came in my email. I want to thank both of you so much. And I'm remembering, Elizabeth, when you and I were on the phone talking about having you on the show, and I got to connect you with Eden. I think you and Eden, and look at what an extraordinary thing is happening. I have a feeling it's just the beginning of what the two of you might be creating together.
It's funny, the universe had the same idea.
Yeah, goddess heard you, Scott. That was super fun.
I'm going to also kind of close with a thought about our ancestors. And some of you have heard me say this before. It's true that we carry the epigenetics of our biological ancestors. I really loved how Elizabeth pointed out also there's our spiritual ancestry as well. And most of our ancestors made extraordinary sacrifices for us to have the amazing lives that we have. Could your great-grandfather or even your grandfather have ever imagined Whole Foods Market? Really, they were living on potatoes. They were living on whatever they could possibly just scrape up. Most of them worked multiple jobs. They fought in wars. They crossed the plains. They crossed the oceans. They had extraordinarily difficult lives. And most of them had one thing driving them: a better life for their offspring, a better life for the next generations. That's us. We are so blessed because of the sacrifices of our ancestors. And yes, maybe we carried in their alcoholism or their low self-esteem or the issues that there was no way they had time or capacity to work on. So let's pay it back in a beautiful grand cycle by really working on whatever we carry in that may be difficult, that may be hard, that may be challenging from our lineage. They gave us the freedom and the abundance that we share, the privilege, the incredibly privileged lives we lead. And we can bless it back by really working on whatever those issues were in our ancestral history and lineage, or as Elizabeth pointed out, in our spiritual history, or even in our gender's history, the gender healing that needs to happen. So I think with the inspiration of this show, I know I'm looking forward to tomorrow night, tuning into my ancestors, giving thanks. I'm not interested in trick-or-treating or going out to a club. I want to stay home, light candles, and give thanks to my ancestors, many of whose names I'll never even know, that led to my being here in California, free and abundant. And I'm imagining many of you watching are also going to do the same. And Eden and Elizabeth, God bless you so much. Goddess bless you for your decades of dedication of learning what you're learning, going through what you've gone through, and sharing it so generously with us tonight.
Such a deep honor. Thank you, Scott.
I just want to say thank you to all the ones that we called in, because we did call in the Great Spirit and the Goddess and the angels and the ancestors of our spiritual lineages and the ancestors of our biological lineages and the ancestors of the land. And we just thank you for being here. Thank you for sitting with us. We ask that you continue to stay with all of those here, continue to bless and protect everybody here as we walk on this earth walk, and we live out those lives in this Garden of Eden. Truly help to clear away those things that are troubling or burdening, our dear brothers and sisters on this call, so that we may really open up our hearts to the joyousness of this earth walk and receive the most love and the most beauty and the most joy that we can. So, amen. Aho.
Oh.
Aho. Thank you, ladies. And as we always do, we're going to conclude the evening with Omashar.
Yay.
Whatever happened to the ones that came before? Did they just vanish into the blue? Maybe they're living the dream we know to be true, and reaching their hands back out of the blue. My heart is so ready to embrace all that's new. I feel the love calling for me to break on through. With peace on my mind, I know that I'm coming to a new way of life that feels so true. There's nothing here to hold me back from you. The clouds of my life have blown away. My lightness of being lifts me every day. I find myself feeling not so blue. Heart is so ready to embrace all that's true. I feel the love calling for me to break on through. With peace on my mind, I know that I'm coming to a new way of life that feels so true. Ba-da-da-dum, ba-dum, ba-ba. Ba-da-da.
one last time, we're going to gallery view to thank Omashar for this evening. And again, to thank Elizabeth and Eden. Thank you so very much. Hey, I want to remind everybody, Saturday night, we have another wonderful show, Conversations with Remarkable People. It's a kind of a montage of interesting people, ranging from Costa Macraeus, who started a conversation group that now has over 1 million people worldwide, all talking about ET experiences. My co-host, for the first time co-hosting, Melissa Fleich, you remember her, she channels the Akashic Records, and many, many other wonderful people, including our beloved Omashar. So thank you, everybody, for making sure you were with us tonight, and hopefully you'll be with us on Saturday night. It's going to be a really wonderful show. And again, thank you, Eden and Elizabeth. I think Eden's already off to dinner or somewhere. Thank you, everybody. It's been a wonderful, wonderful show. And let's all honor our ancestors and have a beautiful, sacred Samhain. Good night, everyone.
Night.